Hi, this is Jonathan Haverkampf again, and thanks for joining me. We have another question and answer here. There's a question, and I hope we can together work towards an answer, maybe even a partial answer, or maybe even kind of a little bit of an answer. Often the way the way is the goal already. So we'll jump into that. The question I got today is why do people intentionally harm other people? I think it's a great question. It's a question a lot has been written about, a lot of books, a lot of articles. You've probably seen people on TV discussing it, so we'll jump into that. Before we do, the usual disclaimer, this is not medical or psychological advice. If you need professional help, please do so. And copyright Christian Jonathan Haverkamp, all rights reserved. Okay, let's look into it. So why do people harm other people and do so intentionally? Now, harm, of course, I'm looking at harm here, not just as bodily harm, but maybe also stealing things from other people. But of course, also assaulting other people, even in the worst case, killing other people and everything else comes in between. Now, I've worked for 2 years as part of my training in forensics, forensic psychiatry. So I had actually patients who had murdered someone, killed someone, who had serially killed, so they would killed more than one person, who committed rape, pedophilia, theft, assault, kidnapping, all kinds of things. Now, why did they do that? If you work with people who've committed such crimes, you would maybe first think, oh, you're gonna see evil or real badness. But I didn't really see that. What I saw was a lot of fear. I saw a tremendous amount of fear. And not fear of getting punished or anything, but fear at the time when they did that. Now, there were, of course, people who had voices, who had paranoid hallucinations, acoustic hallucinations that told them, you need to kill this person in order to save them from damnation and hell. So it was, in a way, a strange, kind of twisted way, because they loved that person, cared so much for them, they actually killed that person because voices told them. So those might sound like very extreme cases, but it already shows that fear is really what's driving a lot of what's happening underneath it. Paranoid thoughts, acoustic hallucinations, hearing voices, is really my inner thoughts that are that suddenly become real, or I hear them in my environment, or even from inside myself. The reason is the brain tags information. It tags information as, okay, this is inside information, or where it's coming from, or this is auditory information, this is essentially coming from outside. And if it misappropriates that information, tags it the wrong way, I hear my thoughts, because my brain believes that the information that's traveling through my brain is actually coming from outside. And there are many other things that can happen as well, visual hallucinations, or I feel that someone else is intruding into my thoughts, quite literally so. It's because that inside-outside distinction gets lost or is impaired. So this is an example where we see how fear is really driving what's happening. Now, however, in many everyday situations, just take someone who's something smaller, like someone who steals something from someone else or takes something. Well, I would say that fear as well plays a large role, or maybe the fundamental role. For example, if someone is taking money from other people, well, um, money in itself is quite meaningless. It's only meaningful or it only has a value in the sense of what we buy for it. Um, so, for example, someone who takes from someone else does so maybe because the money gives him or her a greater security or sense of safety or belonging to the world or belonging or being even normal. I mean, advertisement and the media tell us in order to be normal, you have to have all that stuff. If you don't, you're not normal, or you're subnormal, or you don't really belong. The fear of not being enough, the fear of not being a part of something. But there's, of course, the fear of feeling safe and secure plays a large role in that. If I'm part of a society, if I'm part of a group, I feel safer. I don't have to be as afraid. Now, of course, the problem is uh, very often, and the more one has, the fear doesn't really go away if there's a fundamental issue really with it. Many other things as well. I mean, if someone gets angry or aggressive at another person, it is very often happening out of fear. For example, if someone has a business partner and gets really angry at that person because he believes, or one believes the business partner isn't putting enough time into the business or is maybe even doing business with someone else, there's fear. There's fear something is not going to work. We're not going to be successful, and I will not be able to show to the world the person I am, that I can be successful. And of course, it can be a sense of being lovable. I mean, a lot of people crave for very basic human for very basic things that every human needs, like safety, security, being loved, being understood by others, and feeling a part of a community. So very often, when that seems to be at risk, or if a basic need seems at risk, we might feel angry, or even aggressive to another person. But it really starts with fear, because if you think about it, is the thing you're angry about or you're aggressive towards someone else, even you harm someone else, is that really about something that's needed for you to live a happy life? Well, very often it's not. Very often we are struggling, we chase after things and we feel they make us happy, but in the end they don't, because once we reach it, we just look for the next thing. So, or being angry at a partner, is it maybe because we feel we're not enough? Or maybe we are afraid the partner is going to leave us. So there's a fear behind that as well. And many other things in life. So anger, harming someone, being aggressive to someone else, is very often fear underneath it. For example, in relationships, if it gets to the point where one partner physically really beats another partner, or it gets into a physical fight, well, it's not really a fight to solve something, because obviously the fighting doesn't make things better, but the fear behind it must be tremendous fears in order for someone to get to that point where someone does actually something which is rather self-defeating. So the fear of, am I enough? I'm enough lovable. Does my partner love me enough that they will stay with me? Is very often what drives those extreme reactions, anger, aggressiveness. Oh, what could other examples be of harming? We talked about taking something from someone else, which also goes back to the fear that something is not enough. I'm not safe enough, I'm not secure enough, I'm not important enough. We talked about anger, aggressiveness, harm in relationships, which essentially go back to the same thing, not being enough or not being lovable enough. In business, it's very often maybe we identify ourselves with maybe not even the business, but we need success, and the more desperate we get, the more we feel it slips away, the more we jump after it, and we even, at some point, even the stress itself makes us angry and even more afraid, and there's a vicious cycle of fear, where the fear itself drives itself. So you could say the greatest crime in all those things is really the fear. But well, we feel fear, so that's not really a crime, but it is really being disconnected from oneself. Because if I can feel what it's really about, it doesn't even get to the point where I get angry or aggressive. If I see that all this is, I'm really afraid that I might not be enough or feel secure enough or be not desirable enough or any of those things, then I know that getting angry or aggressive at someone is really not going to help the situation. But maybe I can give that to myself or find ways to make myself feel more whole, more complete, more lovable, at least to myself. So the below that fear is really, and the fear often arises from the fact that there's difficulty in connecting with ourselves to identify what is it we really value, or we really aspire to. For example, what we really value, someone feels they have to make a lot of money, and if they can't, or if they're not successful in a way, they might become angry or aggressive towards someone else. But really, if they connect with themselves, they find out the money stands for something else, for the security or the feeling safe or the feeling being part of something, part of a group or community, being desired or loved. So those are many things that are underneath it. Or fame is the same thing. It's usually when one focuses on something one really loves, one becomes famous through it. If one is just looking for fame, very often that's the road to failure. So one actually needs to focus not on fame in order to become famous. But if one tries to push for fame, it's the same thing. It's do I need to belong somewhere, belong to a group, seen, understood. Also this being understood by others, that others understand how I feel or what I'm thinking, how I'm seeing things. all of that plays a role. And if I don't have that, that can of course trigger massive fears, like in small infants, if they are not understood or don't feel their caretakers understand them, well, that's an existential threat, and of course causes major fear. If I'm hungry as a small child and I'm totally dependent on others, or thirsty, and that is not met, or things like affection, if I need a hug and I'm not getting it, that can be an existential fear as well. So those existential fears then essentially, they can drive massive fears, general fears that we can encounter in all parts of life. So why do people harm other people? I do think because there's fear underneath it, lots of fear, and that fear really also comes from a disconnectedness with oneself, the inability to read what one truly needs, truly feels, and also feeling a part of everything, seeing things as one, because then obviously I cannot be on the outside or separate or alone. So the more I can feel part of a whole, that reduces the fear. But for that I need that basic sense of safety, security. Children, also in adults, attachment, all those things that are important and are very, very basic human needs. So fear would be one answer I would propose. I don't know what you think. Maybe you want to post below the video what you think, and if you have any other questions where you feel, or a question again that you want me to discuss, please also type in something below the video in the comment section. And thanks again for joining me today, and I hope you have a very, very pleasant and nice day. Thank you so much. Thank you.